Hi, everybody. My name is Louisa Higgins, and I'm the Arts Administrator for Riverside County Office of Education. So pleased that you joined us. This is our first ever summer series, and we're kicking it off with a bang with this presentation about creativity and well-being. And of course, I don't need to tell you, after the year we've had, that's a hot topic. And you know, the trauma and experiences that we've had as educators, and also our students, and how do we cope with that. And so I'm really excited to invite Trini as our speaker this morning. And I was just looking back at her bio. I kind of know it by heart, but Trini is a graduate of UCSD with a degree in the arts, and then went on to Loyola Marymount for her credentialing in counseling. And so she's very well poised to speak to us about art and its therapeutic effects in light of everything that we've all just been through. And so I know, and looking forward to having a great year coming back strong, this is something for us to talk about and be aware of and really incorporate into our teaching and learning strategies. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Trini. Please mute yourself if you're not already. If you're able to keep camera on, you know as teachers, that's so helpful to the presenter to have our interaction. And I know she's going to do at least one interactive art making activity with us. No pressure, low stress. So anyway, I'm really so pleased to have her today. Thanks for being here. And thank you to all of you for making time in your summer to be with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to be talking about creativity and well-being, and to share a little bit about myself. My name is Trini Rios. I am a newly licensed professional clinical counselor here in Southern California. I am Los Angeles based. I'm originally from the Coachella Valley. As Lisa mentioned, I received my BA in visual arts from UC San Diego and my master's degree in counseling with a specialization in community mental health from Loyola Marymount University. I have experience working in community mental health, which is where I gained most of my experience working as a school-based therapist. And currently I am in the private practice setting now, working primarily with adults. I have evidence-based practices that are geared specifically towards children and adolescent, MAP, parenting, positive parenting, safety. Yes. So we're going to get started on our topic for today as our review. So as we see, we have done our introduction already. I'm going to start us off with a guided visualization. Then we're going to be talking more about well-being, the different types of well-being, types of art that promote well-being, the impact of COVID-19 on school-aged children and adolescent, connection as resiliency, and we're going to end with some art activities and a group activity at the end. Okay, so we're going to start off with our visualization. And so I'm going to invite everyone to please find yourself in a comfortable position. Make sure that your surroundings are safe. Make sure that you are able to close your eyes or just stare down if that's what feels more comfortable. So I invite you to just get comfortable. I will too. So I'm going to invite us all to begin by taking a deep breath in, holding, and letting go. And we're going to continue to breathe. But breathing at your own pace right now. You all, if there's anything on your to-do list, anything on the back of your mind, that for the next 2 minutes, to be very present here in this moment with us. And you can always get back to that to-do list afterwards. But just being very present and being very present with your breath. We're going to one more deep breath together. And then let go. So as we do this, we're going to start relaxing our body. We're going to start off by softening our forehead, unclenching our jaws, allowing our shoulders to drop, and continuing to breathe. From here, we're going to release any tension that we may have in our chest, in our arms, in our stomach, in our hands, and continuing to breathe at your own pace. And from here, we're going to feel the pressure of our legs if we are sitting down on our chairs. Going to feel how our clothes feels against our skin. Noticing the sensations in our bodies. And continuing to breathe. And from here, heading down to our feet, to our toes. If you are sitting, making sure that your feet are connecting to the ground so you feel grounded. Continuing to breathe at your own pace. And if you notice that you need a deep breath, taking those deep breaths in. And from here, I'm going to invite you to walk through a door that you're feeling very relaxed. And from here, you notice that you are in your favorite place of art, where art is done, whether that be a museum, whether that be in the community, whether that be in your home. And you see yourself creating a beautiful piece of art. And you see the colors or the movement, and you can feel that. You can feel that movement, that body, that motion. And you're feeling very connected to yourself as you create this artwork. You notice being very at peace. You're allowing this artwork to remind you or tell you anything that you need to hear today. And you feel the sensation. And as you see this piece that you have created or performed, you remember those feelings of gratitude, feeling proud, and feeling very calm. You continue to breathe, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you slowly start feeling sensation back in your toes. And you're reminded that we're here for this 1 hour in this webinar. You're reminded that you are sitting down, you're in your home or wherever you may be. And slowly at your own pace, you continue to breathe, but slowly you start moving other parts of your body. And slowly start opening your eyes or looking forward. You're feeling very calm and at ease. And that concludes our guided visualization, but I will give you about 30 seconds to just feel very present and in this moment, and also wake up a little bit from that relaxation. And also throughout our time, if you need to take deep breaths, make sure that you do, because I definitely will. So now that we're feeling relaxed and very in the moment, Definitely want to thank you all for being here, especially this is your summer break. Thank you for making the time and for really setting the intention to be here with me today. I'm very grateful for that. So let's begin, right? Let's talk about well-being. I would love if we're going to be doing a waterfall activity. And so what that means is in your chat, if you can write down, 3 words to describe what well-being is to you, and we're just gonna kind of see all of the words that come up, and we're just kind of see it come down as a waterfall. So take a moment to think, what does well-being mean to you? And if you can sum that into 3 words, at your own pace, please put those words in the chat, and we'll see what comes from it. And you'll notice that as people start participating, it's just going to look like a waterfall of words.
Lots of great descriptors. Are you seeing all of those, Trini?
I definitely am. I'm seeing peace of mind, wholeness, full, being totally myself, calm, balance. I see that calm and balance come up. Comfortable, safe, authentic. Yes, these are great. Healthy body, awareness of others. I really love this list, and I love how we are just kind of seeing all of these words come down. Mindset, soul set, heart set. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for participating in that. And so as we talk a little bit about well-being, well-being is also, what is well-being, right? I love the fact that we all get to have our own interpretations of what well-being is and what it means to us. So well-being, though, in general, is a state of feeling comfortable, healthy, and happy, which are a lot of the words that we saw in our waterfall. So it definitely aligns. And it comprises of many factors, right? There is our physical, our mental, our emotional, and social health.
The historical aspect of green and beautiful.
Looks like somebody needs to mute themselves, please.
Yes, thank you
There
so
we go.
much. Like I said, it's comprised of many factors. As we know, well-being is strongly linked to happiness and life satisfaction, which once again is something else that we picked up in the chat, and I'm so glad that other people are connecting with that. And also, in short, well-being is how we describe ourselves, right? And how we see our lives, which really impacts, our well-being. But in short, also, it really is connection, right? Connection with ourselves, connection with others, with our community. And in your cases, it is connecting with your students, your school community, your district. And so there are so many levels of connection. And so why is connection necessary? Like, why is this so important? So some of the reasons why this is so important, connection, is that it really helps regulate our nervous system. When we're not feeling safe or we're feeling anxious, our nervous system will start to flare up. And so when we're feeling connected with ourselves or connected with others, it can really help calm that. It connects our body and our minds together. It also helps us voice and understand our needs. When we're feeling connected to ourselves, we're able to vocalize what is that we need and create a strategy to meet our needs. And also, it really helps promote belonging. When we're thinking of community and connection, we're really thinking about belonging. And during this past year with COVID-19 in 2020, we were really cut off from a lot of our connections, and our feeling of belonging was really impacted. And so these are some of the great reasons why connecting is so important, okay? And just really impacts our overall well-being. So, we're all wondering how is connection with art? This is why we're here today. So what we're going to be talking about is how do we link art to connection? And as we know, art is a vessel, a tool to help create connection and purpose. Art influences society, it changes opinions, instilling values, translating experiences across from space and times, from centuries, from different cultures. And art really helps us feel at home and witnessed. Art helps us connect with ourselves, with others, and really the world. It really allows us to be able to look back, 20, 30, hundreds of years and able to connect with either our ancestors, right? Connect with others who are no longer here. And we get to see their lives. And respectfully, the art that we create now is also helping us connect with future generations. And we do this through storytelling, through images, through sounds. And so when we think about art and connection, it's so important and it has so much value. So I'm going to ask you all, we're going to be doing a reflection question. If you can grab a pencil and a piece of paper, please take the next 2 minutes to write down what forms of art help you feel connected with yourself, what forms of art help you feel connected with your school community, what forms of art help you feel connected with your students. And we're going to keep this handy. So please take the next 2 minutes to write this down. And if you have any extra time, just continue to think of any other art forms.
Trina, when you say art, do you mean any kind of art, like visual art, performance art? Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, thank you for that clarifying question. Yes, it's any type
Music,
of art.
theater,
Theater,
okay.
everything.
Film, okay.
Yeah, it is anything that you as a person consider art.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to be going on to our, So now that everyone has hopefully, written down, we're going to be going over the different types of art. Just as a quick overview, as we mentioned, each different form of art is experienced differently and affects our emotional feelings. So how I experience art versus how Luisa experiences art, how you may experience art is all completely different. And it's all very valid. And so here are just a couple of different art forms that we all experience. So we have painting, Painting is anything that is expressed, anything that you can put on a canvas, anything that you can put on different sorts of materials. Paint is usually the primary medium, but it doesn't need to be all of the time. And so when we're thinking about painting, there's abstract painting, there's landscapes, there's portraits, there's so many different types of paintings that we can have. The second is sculptures, right? When we create, it's creating three-dimensional objects using images, using a wide range of materials, both traditional and non-traditional, right? Found objects, we have metal, there's wood, there's literally anything can be a sculpture. If you've ever gone hiking and you've noticed the rocks all piled up, that is also a sculpture. It can be using very organic and or non-organic material. Movies, right? So cinema is another form. So we're taking three-dimensional world into two-dimensional screens. So we're thinking about movies, short films, and also TikTok, as silly as that might be, but we are watching, right? We're looking at it through a screen. And then we're thinking about music. Music is the art of arranging audible sounds, vibrations to produce music, right? It can be through the human voice, through instruments, or through both, right? We have jazz, rap, country. There's so many different types of music. There is opera, there's classical. And then we also have literature, right? Literature is an art form that shares stories. It can be through the written, to the verbal, we can read it, we can speak it. So it's spoken, examples such as spoken word, poetry, books. And then we also have architecture, right? When we're thinking about architecture, in art, it might not seem that it connects, but think about how, when you go into a building, how it makes you feel. So that is an art form. And so think about when you go into a museum, how you may feel versus when you go into a county office. The colors might be different, the sensations might be different, and there's an art to all of that. And then lastly, we have here theater. It, usually includes a lot of different art forms. It's an artist performing on a stage. So we have different forms. Dance could kind of fall under theater, even though it is not, because dance is the art of movement. We have musicals, right? There's Hamilton, there's Rent, there's so many musicals, and there are other forms of theater that are performed. And so also please note that this is not an extensive list, and I will be talking about other, non-traditional forms of art. As I see a couple, photography absolutely is another.
Well, Trini is a photographer, I should just throw in.
Yes, I am.
So yes.
Absolutely. And so other non-traditional forms of art, right? We have cooking. When a person is cooking, you are, your senses are ignited, you're cutting, you're touching, you're also presenting the colors, the taste. That is another form of art. And sometimes we think that, food and cooking is it helps give us nutrients, and it does, but it's also an art form. We have crafting. There's knitting, there's crocheting, there's so many different forms of art. There's cross stitching in that. There's gardening. And, with gardening, I don't know about y'all, but during COVID, I found myself, buying so many plants and really increasing my little garden that I have here. And so gardening is another form of art, arranging flowers, potting, and, repotting and moving plants around. That in itself is also, another form of art. And then we have fashion, how we express ourselves through clothing, texture, the shoes that we wear. That is another form of art. And also makeup. When we're thinking about makeup, there's so many different forms of makeup. There are prosthetic makeup, there's, movie makeup, there's glam makeup, there's everyday makeup. And this also really impacts how we feel about ourselves and our overall well-being. Yeah, and if, you know, like I said, this is not an expansive list, and we all experience different types of art forms differently. And so with, yeah, and so with that, I would love to share a personal story of mine of how I experienced art. And so I want to start off by, you know, like Luisa mentioned, I am also a photographer. And in 2019, I went to the National Museum of Mexican Art in Chicago. And there I saw a show by Laura Aguilar, sorry. She's also a photographer. And the exhibition that I saw was Show and Tell. Her photographs are frequently political. They're very personal. She offers a glimpse into her life, her family's life, her friends' lives. She is also a Chicana, so she also showed a lot of what it means to be Chicana, Latina, and also she was part of the LGBT communities, and so she also really showcased a lot of that, and as well as her mental health. And so to share more of my experience, when I went there in 2019, 2 years ago, yeah, 2 years ago, I went into this exhibition knowing about Laura, but I had not witnessed all of her other work of art. And so as I was walking there, in the exhibition and just seeing her art, I found myself connecting. I found myself feeling so many mixed emotions. I found myself feeling really heavy, feeling really light, just feeling really happy, but also feeling what this artist was feeling in some of her feeling that sadness that she carried with her. And I saw the way that she put her body forward, because she identified as a fat Latina woman. And when I saw her work, I also saw my experiences as a first generation, American, as a Chicana Latina woman, as an artist, but also as a fat woman. And when I was there, I'm feeling the emotions that I was feeling then, but I saw my body in these pictures. I saw myself. I saw an artist who was having ownership over her body. I saw an artist who was being vulnerable and shared her experiences, and I felt that I was witnessing myself through her art. And what I really got from this was that I saw value. I saw value in my body. I saw value in who I am. And I found myself in this exhibition, there is the last little gallery before you get to the exit doors, and I found myself walking around in circles in that last space because I didn't want to leave, because I felt for the very first time like I was so alive, but I was also so witnessed. I was being witnessed, and I didn't want to leave that comfort and that safety of belonging, right? And so I stayed there until the museum closed, and they were kicking me out, and I didn't want to leave. But why it was so important for me was because in that day, I gave myself permission to be in my body. I gave myself permission to live, and I saw the importance of who I am being showcased. I felt like I could exist. And so for me, that was really impactful. And art has the power to do that. Art has the power to make us feel things and to help us challenge and to belong and to feel. And for me, that was very transformational of how I see myself, how I navigate the world. And so with that, I really wanted to transition us into this reflection question again, right? Let's update that. So for me, that was very transformational. And I would love for y'all to update this list that we've created, and update it with any additional art forms or experiences where you felt the impact of art, where you felt like you belonged, where you felt like you connected. So take a moment to write these down. And it can be in the different areas that we talked about. Thank you so much for sharing. Performing, yeah. There's a lot with performing. And so if anyone wants to share, please, you know, we can continue with the waterfall. If there's any types of art form that really deeply connect with you, that you feel you connect to, please feel free to share. I would love to see if there's any additional forms that maybe we've missed out. And in this moment, continue to breathe. Fiber art. RPGs. Dancing, yeah. There's so much with dancing, especially if we allow ourselves to just move without hesitation. Beading, yes, that's such a great one. Baking bread, absolutely. I really love what everyone is sharing. Awesome. Well, just continue to keep this handy because we're going to use it later on, okay? Okay, so, why is it all important that we talk about art, connecting, in schools? So this past year, we all experienced a worldwide pandemic, and as educators, you made the impossible possible, literally. You saw firsthand how the pandemic impacted your students, your schools, and yourself. So I'm not here to tell you something that you don't know because you have lived it day to day. You have experienced this with your students. But I'm here to share what I saw as a therapist working with school-aged children and how that impacted their mental health. So many factors that influence children's and adolescents' mental health during the pandemic were themes that I saw come up a lot in my work was uncertainty, social isolation, and parent mental health. So these were some of the big themes that I saw. And I'm sure that many of you can relate to this, a feeling the uncertainty, a feeling the social isolation from friends and peers. And if you are parents, also feeling the distress of being a caregiver during this time. So when we think about uncertainty, what comes to your mind? I know that I have a little definition here, but if we can continue to do the waterfall, what does uncertainty mean for you? We can sum it up in one word: limbo. Absolutely. It's a great way of putting it. Not feeling secure, not being grounded. Absolutely. Absolutely. Out of your control. Absolutely. These are great words to describe uncertainty. So, let's start with uncertainty. It's having doubt, not sure what's going to happen. I like this, owning my what ifs. But what helps uncertainty is having a plan. When we connect with ourselves, we are able to ask for what we need, and we're able to create a plan from there. But specifically in your areas as educators, many adolescents and children had a really hard time with uncertainty. They sometimes may not have the words, the vocabulary, the emotional vocabulary to ask for what they need, and that emotional literacy. So it's really important as educators, you know how to create your plans, but really when you are creating these plans, when you're creating structure within your classrooms, you are helping a child's brain create a sense of safety. I know that it might feel like it's mundane and, this is, having a schedule, but really it's helping create safety. How big is that? You feel like such a small thing, but it has such a big impact. And there's so many benefits. As well, for us as humans, we thrive off of routine. We love having plans. It really helps us feel safe. So what you're doing is a really big deal. So social isolation. We all experience social isolation in many degrees and many forms. Children, they experience also social isolation in such a deep manner, right? A lot of children, as we know, socializing is so important to the development, especially right now. So when we're thinking about what social isolation created, it created a lot. It's physical and can be social, but it really creates a feeling of loneliness. During COVID-19, when we were all really just safer at home, we were at home. We kind of lost that physical contact with others, and that could feel really lonely. And the closures of schools, the separation from children being not being able to see their favorite teachers or be with their best friends, that created a lot of anxiety and caused a lot of stress. And children thrive off of these social interactions. They get to ask questions, they get to challenge their thoughts, they get to learn more about themselves, but really they get to create a support system when they are with other children. Even for ourselves, right? When we are with our friends, we are creating the social support system. And so for those of you who returned back, the last couple of months, you were really helping those students that came back into the school create that connection. And also when you were in Zoom, you were helping and aiding in helping your students feel in socializing, which was such a big impact, which was really important. And so when we're thinking about, social isolation, what are some of the tools that we can do to help us feel connected? I know that right now we are being transitioned into a new phase of COVID-19, where California has dropped all of its restrictions, and so now we're able to start socializing safely. And so this is going to start to look different. These feelings, and we're going to start feeling really connected during the summer. Yeah. So let's talk about parents' mental health. So extensive research shows that fear is contagious, right? And so if a parent is experiencing a lot of fear, a lot of worries, all of that is really contagious. But what we really saw was that parents, no longer had access to the coping tools that they needed, whether it was to go driving, whether it was to go out with their friends, to talk and to vent, to be able to socialize, to go to the movies, to go to restaurants, to go to brunch. And so that really, not having access to a lot of those coping skills really caused a lot of distress in parents, which then caused a lot of distress in children. We may think that, as a caregiver, as a parent, that we are hiding our emotions and our feelings, but the reality is that children are very smart and they can pick up on all of these things. As much as we are the experts of them as their caregivers, but they are the experts of us as well. They have had their whole life to analyze you. They have had their whole life to understand how you do things, what your tone means. And so as much as we are an expert of them, they are an expert of us. And it's really hard to hide a lot of these emotions that we as caregivers may be feeling. And so, it caused a lot of distress within children, having our parents having a hard time connecting with their child, but also being their caregiver, helping out with homework. Parents took on a lot of different roles that they sometimes didn't have to do all of the time. And as you as educators, I'm sure that this was also very hard if you had any children, because you were a teacher, now you're also helping your child, and so it caused a lot of distress. So what does the research tell us about this? What does the research tell us about COVID-19, how this has impacted us? So I looked at different research, and so what the studies really showed, these were some of the things that for me really stood out. But a lot of this research included information about depression scales, anxiety scales, coping styles and strategies, emotional impact of COVID-19 on children and parents. So these studies found the following, right? That anxiety symptoms levels were reported to be higher after COVID-19 than previous years. Youth who had members or friends with COVID-19 experienced higher levels of anxiety than those who did not. These studies found that 85% of parents reported changes in their children's emotions and behaviors during the quarantine. Most frequently, what they observed was behaviors that they observed were difficulty concentrating, boredom, irritability, restlessness, nervousness, loneliness, uneasiness, and worries. This is what they observed from their children. So depressive and anxiety symptoms were higher in females and would increase as they increased with grade levels. If we think about that and we break that down, what does that mean, right? There's so many things that can be attributed to that when we're thinking about, young women and what are the roles that they have in their house. And as being, sometimes young women can turn into traditional caregivers, right? But in general, we saw an increase in both clinical depressive symptoms and anxiety symptoms. And what these articles found was that a problem-focused coping style was associated with lower levels of clinical depressive symptoms, whereas emotion-focused coping styles were associated with higher levels of clinical depressive symptoms. So let's, I'm going to talk about what is problem-based coping is helpful when you need to change your situation. Emotion-based coping is helpful when you need to take care of your feelings. An example, you are giving a presentation. Problem focus would look like you decide to, hire a public speaker to help you feel more confident. As you're presenting, you have all of your family members, you present to all of your family members so everything goes more smoothly. You rehearse it a couple of times so that you feel really prepared. Emotion focus is telling yourself that you can do this. You practice relaxation exercises when you're starting to feel nervous while you're presenting, and you remind yourself that even if you're nervous, no one else is likely to notice. So that's, the problem focus and emotion focus. Is there, and I know that all of this can feel like common sense, right? Because we've all experienced this, and it's like, of course, we know that people's depressive symptoms and anxiety symptoms have increased. Is there anything that has stood out to you? Please make sure you write in the comments, or anything that maybe you experience. Please feel free to write in the chat. Okay. Oops. So really, right, bringing it all back full circle. We are connecting. Really, connection is resiliency. When we are connecting with others, with ourselves, it really is a form of resiliency. It is important that we continue to connect with our communities, continue to connect with our students, with our schools, and especially as we enter this new phase of COVID-19 here in California, what that may look like. And that also in itself might bring a lot of uncertainty. I know we've all been looking forward to this, being able to go back into our routines before COVID-19, but this also creates a lot of new distress. Do we wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? You're vaccinated, and what does that look like? But really remembering that connection is resiliency. And so I'm going to transition over to an art activity, which is kind of why we've all been here. So I'm going to kind of just show examples of this because I want to make sure that we have time to do our group activity. So the first one is a feelings thermometer, okay? And so what a feelings thermometer, these are some examples of feelings thermometers. And so the importance about feeling thermometers is that they really help recognize and verbalize and manage feelings. So in a feelings thermometer, as you can see, there is the green all the way to the red. You can do a feelings thermometer for specific behaviors or feelings. Here we have the example of anger thermometer, anxiety thermometer. And the great thing is that each person can write down, right, what is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, what does that look like for them? What I specifically love about this anger thermometer is on one side it says what I look like. So what do I look like when I am angry and what I can do? And so in this example, right, if you are in a classroom, you are with your students, this is something that you can do all together. Or you can do this with an individual student, and you can even do it at home. And truthfully, it's something that we as adults can also use. And so in these ones, you have a person identify what is it that they're feeling at what intensity, right? And so for this case, this child said that they were at the red, right? And so what did that look like? It looks like they were yelling and throwing. And what is something that they can do is take a break. That is something to help them. And this is also really important because it can help us. If someone is at the red, we can ask, well, what do we need? What do you need to get down to the orange, right? What do you need to help you get down to where you're just having a loud voice? And we can ask those questions, those reflective questions. And we can also, it helps us identify what we might be feeling. And so it's really important to manage, it's an important part of social development for children is for them to be able to verbalize and manage their feelings. So it really helps, children and even adults put a name to their feelings and rate the intensity. Have you ever asked a child or even asked yourself, what are you feeling? And sometimes it might be like, I have no idea. And so really this helps create that vocabulary, that literacy. And so what's great about this is that children can color it in any way that they like, and they can be as creative, but also sometimes we might not have the words to describe that we are feeling super bright, that we're feeling super angry, but the color red and feeling that it's all the way to the top might let us know that, hey, that's where I feel this intense red. And it might, or a child might be like, you know what, I'm actually feeling kind of green and yellow. And we can help them identify, well, what does that green and yellow mean? What does that look like? What could be some possible thoughts and emotions that we might be feeling? And this is also really great to use it can be used in a variety of ways. It can be used at the beginning of the day. It can be used as a way to end your school day. It can also be used if your student is sharing a story and you see that they have some emotions, right? It can be used to ask, what were you feeling when you shared this story with us, right? They're able to maybe say, hey, I was feeling number 5. This is sharing the story made me feel this way. So it's very, it's very important. And also lastly, it can help us teach empathy by exploring our emotions, but also helping by exploring others' emotions. So if we're thinking in a classroom setting, asking, hey, where is your partner at today? Right? And being able to ask them and helping them be aware of what their peers might be feeling. So I personally really love this exercise, and it's very, very grounding. The next activity is, this one's geared a little bit more towards older children or high school. So for this one is listing 3 emotions and taking a picture of each emotion. As we know, everyone has, their cell phone handies, and it can be really easy. So an example might be that a person might say, you know what, right now I am feeling confused, proud, and inspired. And so then allow for the next 2 minutes for that student to go and take pictures that represent those feelings. So 1 image per feeling, and allowing them to to take a picture of whatever they feel describes it. What's really great about this is that, children or, with youth, you can really do this at any artistic level. You don't have to be a grand artist. You don't have to, it can be very abstract. It can be very personal. And the reason that I love this activity is because we get to ask really reflective questions, right? We get to ask, what are you feeling now that you've taken the picture? Tell me more about these images. And also asking, well, how are you feeling now compared to when you wrote down these feelings? And so what we notice is that a lot of the times after a person has taken the photographs, and they come back, they might notice, especially if they were having more, like they were feeling sad, tired, burnt out, or whatever it may be, more negative feelings. What we notice is that their mood changes. We notice that their feelings change. And so what that is letting us know is that feelings are temporary. What we may be feeling is not lasting, it's not going to last forever. And by having others, by moving, by having other interactions, we're able to help let go of those other feelings and then come into new feelings. And so this activity really helps emphasize that, but also really gives you a glimpse into what a person's mind and how they see the world. So here, right, when we're looking at confused, it's this little Amazon echo right on top of a person's head where they're feeling like their brain isn't working. Proud, maybe right here, this image of this person, and they're seeing all of these flowers and they're flourishing, so they might be feeling really proud. And inspired might be that a person read this book called More Than Enough, and that was really inspiring to them. And so you really get to see a glimpse of a person's world and life. And so now for our group activity, I am going to be doing something called mind mapping. And so I would invite you all to please, grab a piece of paper. You can also do this digitally in any way that you like, but for today, I really appreciate if we get a piece of paper, get some pens, get any coloring tools or anything that you may like, but you don't need it. And so what is mind mapping? So here is a mind map of what mind mapping is. And so what mind mapping is how, so when we're thinking about mind mapping, it helps us identify our thinking patterns, right? It helps us identify how we think about a certain topic. And so really when we're thinking about mind mapping, in the middle, as you see where it says how to mind map, it's where you get to ask a question. It's where you get to set a goal, or it can be anything that you want to map out, create a map for, okay? And so you will put that in the middle. And then from there, what we see is these veins that keep going out. And so those are our main topics, right? Our main points to whatever is in the middle, whatever, if it's a goal. And from there, we see that it continues to branch out, and those branches are getting more detailed and more detailed. And so the great thing about mind mapping is that it doesn't need to be linear, right? And so you can put whatever thoughts come to your mind, jot them down. It doesn't have to go in a specific order. And this really helps fight a lot of that perfectionism that some of us may have in us, where we're maybe creating a list, and if it doesn't go right, we scratch it. And because we see the scratch, we need to throw it out and then start completely over and start with number one all the way down. But this really helps. It's very organic and helps with the flow and really promotes our thinking. And from here, we're able to start identifying themes, right? If we're noticing, there's a theme from color all the way to words, we can put a line that connects them. And so we're seeing literally the connections happening. And the great thing is that it doesn't have to just be words that you use. You can draw images. You can use magazine cutouts. And so really, it gets to be whatever you want it to be, but really just expanding your thought. Okay. And so, some of the mediums are paper that you can use, but like I said, you can do this digitally on a tablet. It can be done anywhere and really with any age as well. And I personally love to use this when I'm setting goals for myself. I usually put in the middle, what is the goal that I want to attain, and what are the different steps that I need to take. And then once I identify the different steps, I start breaking it down to what are the different steps within that step that I need in order to feel accomplished or to accomplish my goal. And from there, I can number it, say, okay, this is number 1, this is number 2, 3, 4, 5, and really helps with creating that. And so the next, I really wanted to show an example of what this looks like. So this is an example of a person's mind mapping. So this is artwork by Amanda Everidge. Amanda is a queer and non-binary seed of African diaspora and Ukrainian descent. They are a teaching artist, facilitator, play advocate, experimental map maker, collaborator, and farmer in training from Bronx, New York. And as we can see, their artwork is beautiful. It's a beautiful way. It's another way of mapping out, literally. So you're seeing, the different thoughts that might be connected and how they're incorporating. They are an artist that I really like, and I really resonate with a lot of their work in the visual part, but also in the written. And so if anyone has time, I would definitely encourage you to look at their art. So what I would love to do is for y'all to take the next couple of minutes to do your own mind map. And so the reason that we had collected all of those different types of art is that I really want you to mind map what connection looks like for you. Okay, so please take.
Trini, we only have about 4 minutes, so I think maybe it's going to be on our own activity so that we have time to wrap up and we have time for questions.
Absolutely. Yes, I definitely agree. So please, on your own time, you can look up mind mapping, you can look up this artist, but I encourage you to mind map what does connection look like to you using what you have already created on your list. Okay, and so as we end, I really wanted to emphasize exercises that help really soothe our nervous system, especially as we were transitioning into new unknown territory. So really reflecting, asking ourselves reflective questions, really incorporating grounding exercises into our everyday, making sure that we're breathing, right? Breathing, just taking deep breaths, or just really allowing ourselves to breathe in any way that is comfortable for us. Moving our body, whether it's exercise or just moving it around, identifying glimmers, which is identifying anything that brings us hope, anything that helps us feel safe, and also taking a self-care inventory. So making sure that we know that in different areas of our lives, whether it be work, family, relationships, that we are taking care of ourselves in that. And also seeing if there's anything else that we need to do, incorporate to promote our self-care, or if there's anything that we need to take away, okay? And so that concludes. And so if there are any questions, any questions, please feel free to ask them. I'm more than happy to answer them. But also thank you so much for really being here with me today, and for really taking the time out of your Thursday, and especially during your summer break to be here. I really appreciate that.
I want to thank you personally before we take questions, Trini, for your preparation to create this for us, your warmth and your personal story, which I've heard it twice now, and it was very moving. And also there's some great tools here. I know I want to dig into mind mapping. I'll definitely be making a mind map myself and think about sharing that with some of the colleagues that I work with. So I just want to let you know, my assistant Rebecca will send you an email presently that has a survey, a feedback survey, and that's really important to the work we do. It helps us know what you value, what you found relevant, and also guides towards future programming. And I usually share the feedback with the presenter as well. So if you have something you'd like to say to Trini, that will move forward with her. So thanks for being here. We'll hang out for the next 5-10 minutes to see if you have any questions you'd like to ask her personally. But again, we really are grateful to you for spending this time with us. And we wish you a wonderful summer and a fantastic school year. Thank you.